Well, hello there, everybody. How are you doing? Let me just get things kind of paused here and let's see. I think everything is groovy. All right, it is Intelligence Day. Some call it Hump Day. Some call it, I don't know, call it whatever you want, but make it the best day. It is a grand day. And as I go across the spectrum, there we go. Everything is looking so good. So, what's up, everybody? There we go. And I am all on board. Buses leaving, jump on. Favor be unto us all, nothing missing, nothing broken. Favor means you're empowered to prosper. You're the captain of that wheelhouse. So drive it to its best ability. Fosto be of service to others. And if you got a birthday, anniversary, hey, enjoy it. It defines you. It's what make memories. That's the thing most people fear the most about death in the transition. Do I get to keep my memories? Yes, you do. It's what defines us. So anyway, we are a prospering right here, right, left, up, down, all around. Chris, I understand you had a family member, I think, recently passed. Was it your mom? Well, we just send you love, and I think you'll enjoy today's show. It's kind of cool. You know, the old saying is true: when one door closes, for me, it's not just another door open. Sometimes it's multiple doors. Do a little bit of Monty Hall there. Will I take door number one, door number two, or door number three? It is cold here today. So what's up, everybody? Hey, Gaia and Paul, much love. Big Al, how you doing? Emperor Rex, how you doing? Linda, good to see you. Elderberry, Michelle Isby, I think I saw Karen Lynn in. Robert V is in the house. Joyce Marie and Julianne, how you doing, dear? Speaking of Julianne, Beyond Friday, talking about herbal remedies. Yeah, the earth giveth all the time. And Heidi and Tony, how are you, Heidi, my love? Give Tony a big old hug. Beloved Abstract, how you doing? Let's see, DC Chill, how you doing? Eric, good to see you. Belanca, Robin, hello, good to see you. I'm going back here. Star Ruby, how are you doing? Haven't seen you before. Welcome. Let's see, is there anybody else? David Barry is in the house. Good to see you. JS, good to see you. Two Heads, hello. Crystal Clear. Linda Espinoza, welcome. Let's see what else is happening. Nina's got a show right after this. Actually, it's an hour after. Check it out. She has a lot of fun over there. Pin Greedy, good to see you, my friend. And Doug, hello. Good to see you as well. Joe, hats up. So, all right, if I've missed anybody, go. Chloe, much love. Bernadette, how are you doing? Shannon, good to see you as well. Elderberry. So, when life shuts one door, it opens again, and it's a door. That's how they work. Yeah, I think y'all going to enjoy today's thing. It's going on the same, picking up exactly where we left off on Monday, but it's kind of interesting. Going to throw a few little caveats. I really enjoy the group America. They when we make this transition, many of us are going to be in where you're going to find those most ideal memories begin to create the environment. We're going to read about that. And Dan Peake, lead singer for America, eventually became a pastor right over in Cahokia, Illinois, right across from St. Louis. So bringing back some memories. Yep. Saw that many of you checked out Ryder Lee. Good program. Brilliant young man. No doubt about it. Let's see. So, $2 bills. Interesting, aren't they? You don't see them often. The graphics on them are incredible. I mean, look at that. the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Yes. And of course, it's got sigils like all over the place, but hey, we don't talk about that much, do we? And, it's when you really look at the fine, fine points that you really begin to see our money got more, like they say, this just be that hoodoo voodoo stuff, man. I mean, yeah. And isn't it odd, us humans, how we put so much value into a simple thing of paper? But not just any paper. No, this paper is specially made. It is unique in so many ways because these engravers, they're occultist. If you don't think they're not, okay, no problem with that. And, if you look at all of them, it's, yeah. And it's just a piece of paper. We go batshit crazy over carbon. Put a lot of high price on it too. That's going to cost a lot of this paper stuff, Aren't we an interesting lot? And hey, Joyce Mary, what's up? George Edward Scott, welcome. We don't die. What happens into the signal when you turn off the radio? Lots and lots of different beliefs. And that's why it's always so groovy here, There's a lot of people in, the deep end of the pool. There's a lot of people in the shallow end. And yeah, the water is trained. So if any of you are peeing, yeah, it's like that commercial that the woman says, about to get back into the dating pool. And she says, I'm pretty sure it's got pee in it. Oh, dating sucks. I get, it's one of the great things when you find that connection. You don't have to do that anymore. So, so we were talking the other day about how medical science has suddenly made this great epiphany of, if we have the opportunity, we ought to hook up the patient to an electrocardiogram so we can see what's going on in the brain. Well, speaking of which, it's interesting how we talk about something and suddenly it is out there. So let's check this out. Came across this. This is in vice.com. And it says research on a surge of gamma wave activity at death has been cited as proof your life flashes before your eyes before you die. In truth, no one knows exactly what it means. Last year, neuroscientists made the breakthrough of realizing, it stays active like 21 minutes after death has occurred in the body. Rigor mortis is setting in, but something's still going on up here. Anyway, this is an interesting article. It says in 2016, an 87-year-old man went to the emergency room at Vancouver General Hospital after falling down. A CT scan showed that his brain was bleeding and he needed surgery. After the operation, the man was stable for 2 days, but then he started to decline and had seizures. Because of the seizures, his doctor measured the electrical signals from his brain using the electroencephalogram or the EEG. While the electrodes were on his head, the man had a heart attack and died. And as we've been studying, most of the OBEs and NDEs are cardiac patients because they're the only ones that they can bring back usually. A study published at the end of February documented what was found during the recording. In the 30 seconds before and 30 seconds after the man's heart stopped, there was a surge in brain activity, and not just any activity, but gamma waves. Brain oscillations or waves are patterns of coordinated brain activity. Gamma waves are associated with conscious states, including learning and memory. Wow. And have also been observed in meditative states. Something's definitely going on here. And again, our science, we're like rubbing two sticks together. That's where our known science about the brain is. We don't have a clue. We're learning slowly because of, the, how should we say, the intellectual bias is receding. It says, why would a man, as he is dying, have a sudden increase in a brain activity associated with consciousness? In the paper, the authors wrote that it is intriguing to speculate that such activity could support a last recall of life that may take place in the near-death state. Though the authors include some important caveats, and though it is impossible to read subjective experience from an EEG, the case created a media sensation over the past couple of weeks, suggesting that what happens to one man with a brain injury provides evidence that we relive memories in the moments before we die. A new study suggests our lives really do flash before our eyes in the final moments, wrote the Daily Mail, and an MSN reported that this study reveals that our last thoughts may be. Wow. The Philly Voice wrote, what happens when you die? Life may literally flash before your eyes. First ever scan of a dying human brain reveals life may actually flash before your eyes. Wow. Okay. That's weird. There we go. I think I'm back in focus now. He's back in focus. So, 30 seconds before and after. All right. 21 minutes. Synaptic pathways, measurements. Okay. Wow. So what's happening? Something's happening. Let's get into the book that and I want to introduce you into a fictional story. I'm actually reaching out to this author because the way she writes is phenomenal. I like where her head's at. It really, well, I'm going to introduce you to a part of her book, and it's kind of titled right after this. It's The Inconvenience of Death and Other Distractions. I wrote in the description, so what is death supposed to teach us? I see that there are a lot of you in the chat room. Thank you. Thank you for hitting up the like button. Feed the machine, feed the algorithm. It likes it, pet it. So hit the like button. There you go. All right. So everyone in the chat room, full room, I can see it. Question. And I'm going to focus on this for the next 2 or 3 minutes. And those of you who listen on replay, please comment. So what is death supposed to teach us? Can anyone give me, I don't want a smart ass answer. I'm really looking for depth here. What is death supposed to teach us? Anything? Something? What? I mean, what's really the lessons to be derived from death? It seriously is an inconvenience. If we are truly immortal spirit beings, why death? I mean, what purpose does it really serve other than the obvious? You know, you're going to die, you know, and then you're going to leave your body to the burden to your family to have to dispose of it. You know, it's a mess. It's a pain in the ass, you know, and no one likes it. I mean, so what is the lesson? What is the immortal wisdom that we're supposed to derive from the death experience? I mean, and, you know, you get the standard answers, you know, well, death is but a door, but I don't want that. That's, pardon me, that is not the point here. Let's go deeper. I'm not talking about doors. I'm talking about you. What does death teach you? What is the lesson you are supposed to derive from your death? And don't give me this crap that, you know, and listen, I'm just speaking to this, to the forum here. Eric, I'm not pointing you out exactly, but what I'm trying to say, they're cliches to say that. What does it teach us? Just for All says that we're all alone, aka alone. Okay. Opportunity to choose something different or the next part of a journey. Our growth. You know, that, and it's one of those questions. What is it? I mean, and you think about dying. They say there's only about 4 ways that you're going to die, all of us. You will die either of what they call natural causes, which is primarily organ shutdown. It could be a key organ, could be the main engine, but that is one. The other is self-inflicted. The other is out of your control, meaning, you know, you just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. And lastly, someone steals your life. They murder you. They kill you. May be worse to what they're going to do to your body in the midst as they murder you. And as you begin to see your life leaking out, 4 ways you're going to die. I guess maybe the 5th would be if you are miraculously, like Elijah, transported up. Yep, Joe, put a question out there for a lot of people. A lot of people, they just sometimes don't. What, you know, we want to find people who can discuss this. And, you know, reaching out to Alma as well. We're going to get some people on here because something is going on here. If there's only 5 ways and 4 is probably the one that all of us are going to fall into, and you don't want to fall into that other one. Well, you know, 3 and 4 really kind of suck, you know. Well, I guess 2, 3, and 4 really suck. 1 ain't exactly a party, but, you know, maybe it's more than what we have been told. I don't know. Let's see. See, Ruth Ann, yeah. So I want to introduce to you, allow me this, because we're going to get into the case study. Our next part in the paper, I hope you have it, is the physical features of the NDE and OBE body. How do people describe this account of being outside the body? But before we do that, allow me to introduce to you. And it's such a delightful read. I really am enjoying it. So I got it pulled up. He's got it pulled up already, and it's ready to go. So this is, and I'm reaching out to this author, Bambi Harris, and her book is called Death and Other Inconveniences, the Afterlife series. This is a delightful read. If you enjoy a read that has to do with a topic that, well, quite frankly, impacts us all. So I thought what we would do is, allow me to pull this up so those of you who are watching, we're just going to get into a little bit of this book. It's so cool. So I'm going to set the story here. She's a single woman. This is her birthday. So this is where she opens up the story. And she says, it all started when I died. The Sunday paper recorded it as the coldest day in Illinois for 6 years. The newspaper managed to condense its report of the most recent celebrity weddings to 6 pages. I had lost interest in celebrities long ago, about the time I saw Boy George without his makeup. My eyes skim read over the astrology page, something about life-changing surprises. I hate Sundays. Now, this is, her 30th birthday. 29, what a year. She talks about the dark clouds hovered ominously in the night sky. She said work friends had planned for her birthday dinner that night. She says, I suspected their motives related to food, but turning 30 seemed like a good occasion to hide my dislike for gatherings. She said, I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The years hadn't burned my appearance too much. My mid-length brown hair and gray-blue eyes, along with my hourglass figure, had always attracted men, and just not the committing type. I overlooked the few skin creases that had surfaced due to years of overthinking. She said I took a deep breath and started a bubble bath. Sweet pea bath salts swirled within the steam, and I thought about adding some music to the atmosphere. Forgetting a towel, as I walked past the mist window in the hallway, I scurried through the living room and reached for a small radio, avoiding being illuminated by the moonlight. A sudden sense of danger forced me to freeze. My toes curled inward as I stopped and listened. My neighbor pulled into his driveway, and I wondered if I had locked my back door after taking the trash out. I took a quick few strides and confirmed I had. I lost interest in the radio. A cold breeze hit my shoulders, and I stopped at the entrance of my office. The light didn't react to the switch, but I could see that the window hadn't been closed. Being a security conscious type, I couldn't reconcile it being open, especially not in winter. I could hear the floor creak in a nearby room. My heart pounded in my chest. I tasted adrenaline in my throat, and I spun around and flicked the hallway light on. It didn't react. My hand trembled as I pushed the bathroom door open. I carefully peeked in and snatched my robe from the back of the door. I ran as fast as I could to the living room and tripped on the edge of the rug. After a few profanities, I managed to locate my slippers and half put them on as I ran out of the back door. I didn't care who saw me. The outside world saved me from my paranoia. Then the story goes on. She runs over to her neighbor's house. It's an elderly couple known as Mr. and Mrs. Nelson. Nice couple. And they kind of look after her because, they know that she's a single woman. And so they invite her in, and her name, by the way, is Penny Lane. I love that. Penny Lane. Anyway, and so Mr. Nelson, being kind, elderly guy, kind of the father type, says, well, listen, let me get my coat on, and would you like me to come over? And of course she says, yes, if you don't mind. Now, the problem here is She said, Mr. Nelson positioned himself on the edge of his plastic-covered love seat and sized me up and said, "You seem troubled, Penny. Has the news been getting to you?" The local papers of our small town had frightened everyone with the sensational reports of a serial killer on the loose. He had killed 4 young women in 4 nearby towns, and no one had a clue where he would end up next. Now, she admitted, yeah, I guess, yeah, it probably has. And so he says, I'll tell you what, let's walk over there. So they walk into her house, and she says, oh, no. She said, I left the water running. And she runs frantically towards her home. The front door slammed into the wall when I ran inside, and I couldn't recall if I had closed it before I visited the Nelson. Well, as we're reading this, well, how could that door have been open? It was only the back door, remember? Anyway, who knows? So she follows in there, and it's a mess. I mean, there's water everywhere. It soaked the floors and the bath mat. She says, as I sloshed through it and turned the faucet off. That's a right mess you have there, Mr. Nelson said, as she pointed, unhealthily informing her. It's like, isn't it obvious? She said, warm tears fell down my face as I leaned against the cold tiled wall. He said, don't worry, honey. We'll get you fixed up. Where do you keep your bulbs then? She says, I pointed to the closet in the hallway. Water penetrated his boots as he sifted through a mixture of cleaning products and old makeup. Here we are. Good old 75 water. And so he puts it in there. Light comes back on. He said he followed me to the kitchen where I picked up a chair for my task. Be careful, he said, wet floors. The chair wobbled on the uneven floor, and I started at dismally. Although it took a short procedure, I got the distinct feeling I hadn't twisted the bulb enough to stay for good. Mr. Nelson returned to the hall and, helped her back down. And so she says, well, he offered to help her, because I'm skipping a lot of this. And he says, well, you're going to need to get plumber to check it out. And she says, yeah, I will. Really, it was her who did that. She left the thing going on. So she said, let him out. And that was it. She says, I will, and promised, and shut the door behind him and then locked it. Light flooded the soggy hallway. I entered the bathroom to collect my clothes from the vanity. I heard a faint knocking and checked my robe. Mr. Nelson? No answer. I confidently entered the office and closed and locked the window, dropping the high heel in the process. My wet feet bothered me, and I reluctantly collected the shoe from the corner of the room where it had scattered. As I stood, I noticed the shadow of a man in front of me. My thoughts jumbled as I froze on the spot. Who? My words stuck in my throat. I panicked, and I wet myself. The man's blank stare turned to a smile. He quickly lashed out at me, but I managed to elude his grip. I got to the bathroom and turned to lock the door, but the brand new lavender soap I had just opened had found its way under my feet, covered now in cold water. I slipped. My head slammed against the side of the bathtub, and it stung. Warm blood ran down the back of my neck. Terror ran through my body, and I knew I wouldn't be able to get to the door. He had already entered the room. I wept, sensing the imminence of death. Please don't, I begged him weakly. He shrugged as though he couldn't help his impulses. He pulled a small, sharp knife from his black jeans and smiled as he bent in front of me. My towel no longer covering my shivering body, I lost feeling in my whole body. My vision blurred, my eyes closed against my will. The terror of the knife entering my chest worsened the sharp agony of him pulling it out. Blood cooled as it trickled on my bare stomach. I didn't have the strength to cry, but I wanted to. I wanted to stop fading. I didn't want to. I didn't want to be in the water anymore. Then I felt nothing. No more conscious thought or feeling. My life had been stolen from me on my 30th birthday. And that's when it all began. I had no idea what I was in for, a life-changing surprise. And it's interesting. I know it's very intense because death is a life-changing surprise, isn't it? No matter when it happens or how. This one is sad because this is the worst way to go, in my opinion. So, what happens to her? Glad you mentioned that. I bet you really want to know, huh? Yeah, because your heart's already, I mean, this is what I like about good channeling. Bambi here has done a great job in channeling this story, the intensity, the emotion, the sadness from Penny's point of view. Chapter 2. I woke in the dark and stretched like a cat, the sleeves of my robe falling to my triceps. I had no luck locating my quilt or pillow. The ground beneath me pressed hard and cold against my skin, so I rested on my elbows and tried to comprehend my surroundings. The darkness didn't alter with focus. Pitch black, with a very slight wind coming from in front of me. Quick images hit me full force. My head hitting the bath, the man stabbing me, the odd fragrance of warm blood. Had the man kidnapped me? I stood carefully and hit my head on the ceiling of the dark room. With my knees still close to the ground, my hands explored the room, which seemed to be a tunnel. My fingers searched the back of my head for the deep wound that had somehow healed. Suddenly, the ground beneath me shook side to side. My body spun like a hamster in a wheel. I did what I could to keep myself balanced by pressing my hands against the walls of the tunnel. The darkness unnerved me, and I wondered what waited for me at the end. I attempted to crawl away from the wind and hoped I would find a safe passage in the other direction. My thoughts turned to the man and what he had done to me. I wondered if he watched me now through a video camera, like some insane experiment. The tunnel ceased its shaking. At first, a faint humming sounded around me, and then it grew to a loud roar, which reminded me of an old washing machine. I sensed the inevitable vacuum and quickly scrambled to my feet and knees away from the wind. I couldn't find any handles or crevices to hold on to, and I flew mid in there, darkness toward one end of the tunnel. "Stop!" I screamed. Gradually, I floated face down into what I thought might be a conveyor belt. I turned around and set to face my final destination. A faint light waited for me in the distance. My eyes took a few minutes to adjust as everything moved slowly. My confusion outweighed my fear. The light grew bigger the closer I got to it. My energy lost in defeat. I stared in it, deep thoughts. I pondered my injuries, wondering if I had been there a long time. Maybe I had healed and the man would hurt me again and again. My hands ran over my body, searching for an object to defend myself with. The ground ceased its movement, and a loud roar stopped with it. A plate-sized light shot above me. Its dim aura grew to a bright light and stopped abruptly in my face. It expanded and dispersed like a silent explosion. A form shaped that I couldn't quite make out through my temporary blindness. Something wet stroked my cheek. The man had licked me? At least I thought he had, but instead, a very familiar face greeted me in the light, and I couldn't believe my eyes. David Castle, how about this one, brother? Rufus. The tears on my face surprised me. Rufus, how did you get here? His large terrier face planted happily. My childhood dog, with his gray hair and Santa Claus eyebrows, had somehow been brought to life before my eyes. I panicked, concerned I had been violated with an hallucinogenic drug. My eyes closed as I nuzzled my head into his scraggly chest and breathed in his smell, the smell of memories, one of the rare good memories I had of living with my foster family. A hand squeezed my shoulder. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I tentatively raised my gaze to see my capture. He didn't look like the man who had stabbed me. In fact, something about him struck me as beautiful. The bright light created a halo effect over his short, sandy brown hair. His handsome, friendly face held mischievous green eyes, and his white knit sweater and white suit pants hung off his athletic figure nicely. He extended a strong masculine hand to me. I had no reluctance in accepting it as he helped me to stand, his face only inches from mine. I quickly looked down, surprised to see Rufus still at my feet. You've not been drugged, the man said gently. I raised my right eyebrow, which I did on various occasions. How do you know what I was thinking? I always wanted to do that, he stated. What? I always wanted to do that thing with the eyebrow. We are all only allowed a certain amount of idiosyncrasies. Fatigue overwhelmed me. Okay. He scratched Rufus behind the ears. A lot of people think they have been given hallucinogens when they get here, he explained. I stared past him, only to have the light bombard my vision. And where is here exactly? He swept the open space with his arms as if lost for words. Some call it heaven, Elysium fields, the greater plane. Me personally, I call it home. I don't remember getting an invite. He offered an ironic smile. It will take you a while to get your bearings, but you look like a bright girl to me. So I really am dead? It was something very difficult to comprehend, and most of the questions I had always wanted to get to the answers to immediately left me. Where is God? Am I so glad there is an afterlife? It suddenly occurred to me that I might be judged on my past actions, and I tried to remember anything I should worry about. Yes, you're dead, he responded impatiently, as though he had confirmed it too many times. I'm sorry, he said quietly. We've had a big caseload today. A bomb took out 26 people in France, and we lost 36 people in the Pacific, not to mention I've got one of my greeters off for a week. His words struck me in my mind, and I stared at him while I processed them. Greeters? He slowly walked away from me. I am a greeter. Actually, I'm a supervisor of about 50 of them. We greet people when they die and fill them in. Bit of a tour and a welcome package, that sort of stuff. He said, I followed him with Rufus close behind. You mean that you meet them at Heaven's Gate? Well, he said, I call it Death's Door, but really they're just individual terminals. He stopped at a guard shack surrounded by high white iron fences. Got a nice one today, hey, Avery? The skinny young man in the guard booth asked my companion. He winked at me flirtatiously. This greeter knows how to pick 'em. Yes, indeed. Just ignore him, Avery said. The skinny guard handed him a mahogany folder full of papers. She's been processed already, so she's good to go. First category, homicide, age 30, no heartstrings, the spirit of a champion melter. Avery took the folder, using a lever to send it down a chute. He gave me a copy of my fingerprints on a laminated card and a photo of me that looked like it had been taken during my time in the tunnel. This is very unflattering, I complained. You didn't even say smile. Avery laughed. The terminal is the most effective way to process people, gives them a bit of time to work out what's going on, and we can maneuver them easier. He took a large key from the guard. You'll make supervisor one day, Johnson, he said to the guard. You just have to practice getting a personality. Get the hell out of my sight, Johnson said. He didn't say hell, but anyway. She says, I kept a close eye on Rufus as we watched Avery open a tall wrought iron gate. It made no sound when he pushed it, and I wondered how this place differed from Earth. I walked slowly to take in the beautiful view. Weeping willows hung all over small rivers, while wide brick paths wound through trees and flowers. A faint scent of vanilla mixed with the fragrance of various plants. I suddenly sensed something amiss. I tried to get a glimpse of my back, turning my head right and then to the left to the point that I spun all the way around. Avery watched me in amusement. What are you looking for? My bottom, I responded matter-of-factly. Your bottom? Yeah, my bottom. The bum, derriere. It seems to have diminished somewhat. He smiled knowingly. When you die, your natural body is returned to you minus excess weight, tattoos, piercings, and plastic surgery. I looked at him, stunned yet curious. What about people with, physical disabilities and deformities? We work with them on a person-to-person basis. I know someone who works in that field, and it's not hard work with no physical insides to consider. Here, we are just souls that wear a flexible shell. Oh, I pondered his response. Avery ventured to a bench near a small waterfall that led to a duck-filled brook. He patted the bench, and I sat down with him. Questions filled my head. So all angels wear white? No. White is just the color most people expect to see, so we accommodate. He stared out toward the brook. He looked tired. We are not angels. We're just people doing our job. The beautiful garden stretched to the end of my vision. I pondered the many possibilities that might lie beyond its boundaries. Avery studied my face as though I could give him answers. I haven't been this tired in years, he said aloud. A pebble rolled toward my right foot as though someone had thrown it. I looked around, but didn't notice anyone around us. I picked it up and threw it into the water. My previous panic and anxiety were lost in the sound of gushing water. The warm breeze played on my bare feet. I looked down and closed the top of my robe discreetly. Do I have to wear this for the rest of my life or the rest of my death? His expressions lightened. God, no. I didn't mean to shirk my responsibilities. I bet you have a few questions. I have the personality of a wet mop. I've had so much on my plate lately, he explained. No, you have a brand spanking new wardrobe waiting for you in your house. I have a house? He stood slowly, already tired of the bench, and brushed off his white slacks. Ever heard of homelessness in heaven? I followed him across the tiny bridge that oversaw the brook. Do I have to share the house with anyone? I imagined an old school building full of young women in paisley nightgowns, brushing each other's hair. He looked at me strangely as though I had spoken my thoughts. I thought you would worry about that. I'm not worried, she lied. He helped me over a stone partition and led me over a lush green hill. A modern-style glass building stood out toward the bottom of the hill. Avery stopped in his tracks and turned, cocking his head lightly. There's something about you that strikes me as a tad odd. He stared stated bluntly, excuse me, I just died a few hours ago, and you haven't explained a thing to me just yet. So I don't know you can expect anything but a whole lot of odd behavior. I crossed my arms against my chest and became conscious of pouting like I did when I was a little, and I stopped. All right, I'm going to stop there. I think as you can get the idea, the reason why I brought this up, and if you like the book, as I so typically do, let me know. Be more than happy to send it to you. I can just give you a little peek surprise. So in this version of Where We Go, and by the way, there is an explanation of how people get trapped here. Very logical when you read it. Quite interesting, in fact. And when you find out that when we pass over, when we go through this event called death, people say, and I've said it, well, there is no death, but that's not true. There is. We're all going to experience. Depending on how you look at it, we've experienced it many times before. Depending on how you look at it, some say that, many say it's almost orgasmic. Others say it's the most serene peace that just simply envelops us. But here's the point. We're all going to have jobs. We never stop learning. There are responsibilities apparently on the other side. And depending on how your point of view of it is, I kind of look at it like this. I said, okay, I don't know how many of you caught Ryder Lee and when he invited me on his show yesterday. I enjoyed it. It was a good conversation. But it drives to the point that where we discussed on Monday, what religion, the virus of religion, what it does, it downloads a program package. And we discussed that. The program package is, well, for a vast majority of the people of the world, they believe that when they die, they're going to be greeted by angels, that angels will usher them into this place called heaven, which is broadly defined. I don't even know if broadly is the right word. I would say that it's probably ambiguous in its description. Thank you, Nina. Love you, darling. Looking forward to seeing you on Monday. I am going to have to go back and read this thing. The comments in the chat. They're always great. But anyway, the package, once it's downloaded, is that it's all going to be taken care of you. You're going to go to a place that supposedly that they're, depending on how your point of view is, 7 different levels. Now, the vast majority, at least a third of humanity, is of the Abrahamic belief system. And, the Pauline epistles, because that was Paul's religion. It never was Christianity, but actually it was, because Paul was a Roman agent. But anyway, if Paul ever existed, but that magi, that magician, which Paul was, I mean, can any of you explain and describe and interpret for me what he meant by the 7 different levels of heaven? I mean, what happens? You got to think about that. All right. Then you got the weird story of the cube that falls from heaven called the New Jerusalem. It's 1,500 miles long, 1,500 miles wide, 1,500 miles across. Pretty damn big spaceship if you think about it. And then you've got the other side of it that, well, if you reject the message, right, where you're going to go to this place called hell where you suffer. And we talked about that. But the point is, the program kicks in. And this is just my perspective. I think, sadly, as you're reading the book, if you want it, like I said, I'm going to get her on because I love it. All these questions are answered. And here's the cool thing. I keep talking about my beach. David has built his place, David Barry. And, you know, come to find out, that's probably exactly what more likely is going to happen. It's the anticipation of what we begin to prepare ourselves for. And that's the other question. So we know that the event is going to happen. It's going to happen for all of us, one way or the other. So why can't we plan for the event? And much like they did when they tested us in school, particularly as you remember in junior high. Well, I remember it was 5th grade. Then there was another test in the 7th grade, and but aptitude test. You know, what does Johnny want to be when Johnny grows up? And you're supposed to answer those questions, because then that kind of defines what you really are made of. And if you've got reincarnation, and if you buy into that, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, then apparently we have these skill sets. Joe Sapien says, I know I have my own place, but I forgot what it looks like since the last time I was. You know, Joe, I think that's so true. Penny's place, just to tell you, she lived at 007 African Place, 21st century. So apparently our addresses go with the century that you were born in. Now, us baby boomers, we are what we call the mid-centuries. In other words, we were born in one century and we will exit out in another century, which is really interesting, because are we 21st century or are we 20th century? Yeah. Apparently, as the Matrix taught us, and I have read this in numerous other books, The Soul's Journey. I mean, there's just a number of them that I've read who kind of describe kind of the same experience. You find out that those of us who practice occultism, you know, apparently we're very special over on the other side. Apparently, and I love some of the story that she draw in there, is because, remember, all fiction is predicated upon truth. That's what makes fiction so interesting. It's determining what truth lies within the fiction. But apparently, folks that are more in tune to what we call different modalities, these are highly sought after on the other side. Apparently, those of us, our kind, we come here with a number of different missions, but apparently it's also to begin to interact. There are only certain type of elements that you can work with, that only you can work with in this realm, apparently. And if you get really good, for instance, working with the elementals, working with different spirits, being able to play well with other spirits, these are all huge merits on the other side. Well, Joe, that sounds like a good house. I like that. So that is apparently one of the big deals. And it's interesting because the challenge is apparently we set these challenges up. For instance, religion. Now, organized religion, a lot of people rebel about it, but the fact of the matter is a great majority of the people are in it. I was one of those people. Got the hell out. As Churchill said, if you're going through hell, don't stop. So, but But it's interesting because, if you became indoctrinated and then became unindoctrinated, you carry certain antibodies in your spirit, your soul, that apparently are very powerful. And those who have become unindoctrinated are usually the most voracious knowledge seekers. They can't be stopped, can't be satisfied. And there's a reason for that. Good reason. And again, as you learn to interact with the spirit realm, you become much more adaptive when the process takes place. Actually, Joe, I have a teleportation system. And by the way, there is such a system in this next realm. It's a complete realm. It's as vast as this one. Far out. And it gets into the reincarnation. But my point to finish out there is that if you are a practicer, a seeker, huge bonus points. All I can tell you, it's like that's why the spirits seek us out. There's a lot of us here. We've always been here. We come into this realm specifically to do what we're doing right now. And that's why some of us become really adaptive to it really quick. It's because it's natural. And once we connect to those gifts, then you begin to have what we would call the supernatural. The supernatural trumps the paranormal every time. Because I am supernatural. I don't know what normal is. I'm probably anything but normal. My wife would agree with that too. Wow, look at the time. I mean, woo. And so here we are, and we'll continue the journey. Didn't even get to our case study that we're reading. Well, that's what tomorrow is for. Justice for all, you're welcome. But you think about that. I mean, of all the billions, who knows? I don't know if there's a set number. Lilith says that there is a set number that are allowed in each cycle. I could see that. I mean, is reincarnation mandatory? These are some of the questions I have on the other side. I'm sure I'll get the answer and I don't see any reason why I can't get the answer here now. If I'm already a resident of the other realm, then it would seem logical to me that I have certain inalienable rights. You can't deny me of my rights. If I am a citizen of another realm, then as a citizen, and I'm just using the word citizen, not as the breakout. In other words, that's where I belong. That's where my true essence is. Then there would be certain rights I would think that you would have. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the right to exist. Does that make sense? Says Lotus Ocean app has your answer. Well, if it's an app, it's interesting. I think that is a place again that we've allowed the others to manipulate and use. I think we need to take that back. Hey, Susie Q, what's up? Can I be banned from returning? I hope not. I really do not hope not. I mean, I have been there. I've told y'all the vision that I had, and it was real, but who knows? If you listen to what the scientist says, all we're doing is creating it up here. But if we're creating it up here and this is all what I am seeing, then that tells me there's a lot of validation to that there's more going on. I like the idea that the air that we breathe is not just gas. There is something else mixed with the gas. It's not the gases that allows us the ability to exist here. There's something else. I contend our science hasn't discovered it because we got thrown off the path. Hey, Big Al. Well, you're welcome, brother. Love you too. Give Perry my best as well. Dave Sullivan, thank you. Oh, good. Get outside, and I love that. Lotus Apt has real Vedic Indian knowledge. Well, thank you. Thank you. I will check that out. Cool. Hey, Isby, I don't believe our consciousness is in our heads. Yeah, I mean, something's going on up there. I don't know. I mean, if there's an electrical yeah, it's I think it's almost ethereal in application, but Isby, that's interesting. Well, thank you, Scott. Flattered. It was. Exactly, Gaia and Paul. I loved it. So you think that's air you're breathing? Mm-hmm. Well, Joe, that's the idea. It's just call me the cosmic channeler as I'm driving. It's like, all right, and then on channel 421, they want, because I think that's what's happening. We see a lot of people, a lot of different channel. They channel to other beings and other star systems. I don't find that too far of a reach, But then again, I guess you have to be accepting that that is a way of communication. Actually, I think it's the only way. It's all and everywhere if you can see and feel, and then then you're in and of consciousness. I like that. Been greedy? You're welcome. Hey, Divine Empress Uranus. High five on that one. Heidi, much love to you. Give a hug there to Tony as well. That's funny. Linda Brooks, good to see you. Love your emails. I just haven't got a chance to answer them all. David Castle, good to see you, brother. All right. That's cool. I enjoy this meeting every day. There's so much to talk about. And listen, if you ever want to come on, if you have experience in this, let me know. Love to have you on, because this is kind of things that I am really focused in on. I know this. It gives me a power and control over what's happening in the world today. I know that for a fact. Because it takes the fear factor out. If y'all know what I mean. Hey, Shannon, what's up? Great. I'm going to have to go back and look at that. And don't open the door lest... wasn't that the way it was in Beetlejuice? What happened when time walked out the door? Holy crap, the sandworms, and then come to find out, he thought it was just like a couple of seconds or minutes, and come to find out it was months. See, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And did Middle Earth ever exist? I think it did. This is they say the time of man. The time of man is coming to an end. So what's going to replace us? We replace someone prior to us. Oh, I love the questions. Hey, Jules, what's happening? Linda says, I think death teaches us there is nothing to fear. Isn't that interesting? Yes. I'm still listening to it, but there was some activity here yesterday. Indeed. All right, folks, tune in to Nina. She's on in 55 minutes over her channel, Nina the Mystic. And I will see y'all tomorrow. All right. Much love. Boy, I enjoyed the day. good stuff. And if you want that book, it's a great story. You're going to love it. All right. Talk to y'all later.